What's up, my Beardos and Weirdos? OneTopic here, and we're diving into one of our favorite subreddits, r/NuclearRevenge. We have 2 stories to go through, and then we have a bonus at the end. The first story is about a manager who does not respect their employee, a lawsuit ensues, and some crazy stuff happens. The second story is about a grandmother who wants to control all of the details of a funeral, even if it's not in the best interests of the family members. Alright, let's get started. Manager thought my job role was unnecessary, finds out the hard way it wasn't. Here's a case of 2 distinct acts of revenge, combining in spectacular fashion to create nuclear revenge. Thanks to Redditors and r/ProRevenge for the rewrite help. About 20 years ago, I was a sales engineering supporting sales rep at Duchbag Tech Company, DTC. A new sales manager joins the team. He was a former co-worker from a prior job, a petty little man. Prior, we were peers. Now he is a manager over the sales reps I supported. I had a separate chain of command. He was not my manager, but felt he should be. He was resentful of the power that sales engineers in this new company had. In an attempt to show me up, he closed a very large deal with a banking company, ABC, and did so without any involvement from the sales engineers. Just one sales rep. He gloats about it publicly. Talks about how we don't even need sales engineers, the whole 9 yards. Later, the manager calls me in a panic, and we talk with the customer. The sales rep and the sales manager totally fused things up, and sold the customer an incompatible set of solutions. I say that the customer should exchange one bit of stuff for another bit of stuff, everything would work, and they're roughly the same price so nobody would lose any money. But the sales manager doesn't want to do it, because admitting he fused up would make him look bad. And he bitches at me for bringing up price, because that's supposed to be the rep's job. He calls my boss and poops all over me. My boss took his side, and poops all over me too. So I'm like, fuse you, I quit. I sent a very lengthy, detailed letter to HR explaining how the sales rep fused up, lied to the customer, and how the sales manager and my boss tried to make me the scapegoat instead of trying to fix it. Which would have been easy and made everyone happy. I move on, get a new job, do other things. At some point, I'm chatting with an old friend from DTC, and he mentions they fused up a huge deal that they spent a year on. I'm still bitter about the Duchbag sales rep manager and my asshole boss, so I post about it on a forum a bunch of investors use. The stock crashed $13 the next day. This will be important later. I found out ABC is suing DTC for fusing up the deal. The deal that the Duchbag sales manager fused up and tried to pin on me. I reach out to ABC, sending them a copy of the letter I sent to HR in which I detailed precisely how badly DTC fused them over. I talk with one of their lawyers and he's very happy, especially the part in my letter where I describe how the sales rep lied to ABC. DTC subpoenas me for a deposition. I have to tell DTC's lawyers everything that I told ABC's lawyers. Lawyer stuff. DTC sues me directly. Remember DTC's stock crashing? They're suing me for bad-mouthing the company and attempting to short their stock, which I wasn't. However, there's a twist. Because DTC is suing me directly, I don't have to say shiz to them at the deposition. Their preparation for the lawsuit goes completely out the window. They know they're fused because they read the letter I sent HR, but they don't know how fused because they don't know what else I know or what I've told ABC's lawyers. Additionally, because they never deposed me, they can't catch me contradicting myself between what I say at the deposition and at trial. They're dumbfounded. No idea how they could have fused up this badly. Turns out there were 2 legal teams, one defending against ABC's lawsuit, and another trying to scare people away from talking shiz about the company on the internet by indiscriminately suing their critics. They don't communicate with each other, and the one team didn't mention to the other team that they were suing a key witness in their case. DTC settles the lawsuit with ABC, and they drop the lawsuit against me, and they fired the sale rep manager and his manager too. Dang, OP. I don't think you're supposed to badmouth your old company, but hey, if they do something illegal, if they misrepresent a sale to a customer that they're spending money on, then good on you for warning individuals about this. Good on you for reaching out to HR. And it's a shame that you weren't rewarded in some fashion, but at least you got a good story out of the deal. Thanks for writing this one, OP. Aunt gets nothing. Excuse the formatting and occasionally misspelled words on mobile. It's long, I'm sorry. This is more my grandfather's nuclear option than mine. My aunt on my father's side is the definition of a piece of work. She's always been a user of people and just plainly out for herself. Damn the consequences. My grandmother and my grandfather, her adoptive parents, had their own list of issues like anyone, but were good people. Salt of the earth type people. They always tried to do what was right and help however they could. This led them to bail her out of filing for bankruptcy on a couple of occasions because my aunt simply could not live within her means. Add on that, she has, a history of just being a really shizzy person, like stealing my grandfather's social security checks and retirement checks when it suited her. My grandmother died suddenly in 2001, and I remember my aunt being really childish that she didn't get anything, as my grandmother's will stated that everything goes to my grandfather unless he passed first. Like, basically every other married couple would do. My grandfather, shortly after, sold the house and land and moved about 3 hours drive north in the state. I was 15 at the time, and the toxicity of her threw this really dark shadow over my whole family and my eyes. In my youth, I didn't realize at the time that he did that to get away from his daughter. I dropped contact with my grandfather, thinking that he abandoned me too. I regret that to this day. Refusing to interact with my aunt also meant that I fell out of contact with my cousin. Anyhow, a few years later, my grandfather reached out to myself and my cousin, asking us to come visit. We did, and it was a great time. Reconnecting. Aunt never knew about that, putting water under the bridge, so to speak. The years go by, and I still couldn't get over myself and once again fell out of contact a few times. About 6 years ago, my cousin calls me saying that my grandfather is living with him now and that he has dementia. That he probably doesn't have long. I was out of state at the time, so I booked the next flight I could and raced to see him. My grandfather was able to recognize me and called me by the nickname he always used for me. That was the last time I ever saw him alive. He died early in the morning a couple days later, and my cousin and I had to go to the funeral home to set up the burial. Turns out that grandfather had set everything up already and had it paid in full several years prior. All we had to do was sign some papers. Because we weren't his most immediate family, they needed my aunt to sign off as well. So, as much as I hated the idea, we set up a family meeting at the funeral home. We warned the director that she would try to change things, but to not let that happen. Not that she could pay the difference anyhow. True to form, during the meeting, she changed everything. From the type of casket, to the service, to even wanting members of the military there for a 21-gun salute. Grandfather was a Navy man from 45 to 65 and never saw active combat. Grandfather was a simple guy and had chosen the cheapest of everything. The director took it all in stride, and said that the difference was something like $16,000, and looked directly at her and said, "We take cashier's checks." The look on her face was priceless to me. After the service, about a week later, my cousin found my grandfather's will. So, another family meeting, this time with grandfather's longtime lawyer friend. Grandfather left his house and land to be sold and the proceeds to be donated to charities after any debts owed from his estates are paid off. A little over $55,000 got donated across several charities in his name, and also left nearly all of his belongings to my cousin to split with me as we saw fit, and left her $10 to be paid on the event of his death. Later, it was explained to me that he left her $10 so that she wouldn't have recourse to change the will. If you don't name a living immediate family member, they can challenge the will through some legal process. We found out as well that he had also sold the graveyard plot that was reserved for her next to my dad and my grandparents. I saw her about a month ago, looking like she may be homeless and obviously on drugs of some sort. I felt nothing but contempt and maybe a little schadenfreude. O.P. Your grandfather sounds like a boss. Good for him for being able to recognize that it was an unhealthy situation, that sometimes even family can't be looked after. I really appreciate that you were able to take all this in stride and even made sure the funeral went well, even with her trying to meddle with things. Nice work, OP. And thanks for writing the story. Alright, let's dive into some bonus content. We have r/SuicideByWords. 0 to 100 real quick. The problem isn't that I was born in the wrong generation. The problem is I was born. 95 reply. Forever, always, infinitely alone. If the infinite universes theory is true, then there are infinite universes in which you date the person you have a crush on. False. Only possible universes exist, meaning I won't be dating my crush in any of them. Savage. Alan Watts. What happens if you stop talking to yourself all the time?
If I stop talking to myself, then who am I gonna talk to?
When someone says they get 10 times as much pussycats as you do, and you say 10 times 0 is 0. Reality is often disappointing. The most realistic part of Harry Potter is how he goes to a school where he learns skills he can't use in the real world.
If there isn't any Rule 34 of you, do you even exist?
Well, there is an ugly bastard tag, so most likely I'm somewhere out there.
Bots.
I don't even get matched with bots.
Sorry, dude. Even bots have standards. Sorry.
Alright, my Beardos and Weirdos, that was another r/NuclearRevenge with some r/SuicideByWords bonus. We'll see you in the next video, where we take it one topic at a time.